Baseball is unique, in which it's a team sport that is more individualized than other team sports. As a result, these individual statistics give us a much clearer analysis of how good a player is as opposed to other team sports. However, times do exist where MLB players don't get the respect they deserve. 90 Sports Nostalgia presents 5 most underrated MLB players in the 90s. First, an honorable mention in Warren Newson. Newson was a type of hitter who played in the wrong era. Nicknamed the Deacon, Newson could hit the ball hard and had an exceptional eye at the plate, which made him a valuable player, according to famous stat head Bill James. In a way, and before Moneyball, Newson was the original Scott Hatteberg, but the Deacon never got more than 273 plate appearances in a season during his 8 years in the big leagues. The 5th most underrated MLB baseball player in the 90s, Chris Hoiles. Hoiles was perhaps the best hitting catcher in the American League in the 90s. Like many catchers, Hoiles only played about 66 to 75% of the games in a season, so his numbers were never going to be necessarily eye-popping. But every season from 1992 to 1998, his OPS plus was above the league average of 100. Furthermore, Hoiles had a really respectable defensive WAR from 1993 to 1995 and recorded a perfect 1,000 fielding percentage in 1997. The former Baltimore catcher never made an All-Star team and is never mentioned as one of the top catchers in the 90s. In at number 4, Kevin Brown. From 1996 to 1998, Brown had one of the best 3-year periods that I had ever seen from a pitcher, and the rest of his career was really good as well. His stuff was nasty, as Brown threw hard, with a lot of movement coming from different arm angles. Brown never won a Cy Young, as he finished second in 1996 and third in 1998, although he had the highest WAR for pitchers in both of those seasons. But Brown was ultra intense and never had a cuddly relationship with the media. It seems like that people forget or never quite realized how good and dominating Brown was in the 90s. The 3rd most underrated MLB baseball player in the 90s, Howard Johnson. When you think about 30-30 players in the late 80s or early 90s, I doubt that Howard Johnson's name comes to mind. Hojo was an exceptional baseball talent, as he joined the 30 steals, 30 home runs club in a season 3 times in his career. The switch-hitting Johnson led the National League in home runs and RBIs in 1991, but strangely, Hojo really declined quickly. In at number 2, Tony Phillips. Admittedly, maybe there's some bias here, as Phillips was one of my favorite players of all time, but in reality, the switch-hitting Phillips was one of the best leadoff hitters in the 90s. He was up there with the likes of Ricky Henderson, Tim Raines, Kenny Lofton, and Craig Biggio, but was never mentioned with that aforementioned quartet. Phillips was frequently among the leaders in walks, as he had some seasons with an outstanding on-base percentage. Furthermore, Phillips had good power for a leadoff hitter back then, and was the ultimate utility player, as Phillips could play every position except pitcher and catcher. And the most underrated MLB baseball player in the 90s, John Olerud. While with the Mets, Olerud would take the subway to the stadium, and no one knew who he was. In fact, who Olerud was a really good player. Maybe the left-handed hitter didn't put up the power numbers people expect from a first baseman, but he could hit and had an on-base percentage near 400. Moreover, Olerud was an exceptional defensive first baseman, but when people think about first basemen in the 90s, it might take some time before Olerud's name comes up, despite how good of a player he was. The 5 most underrated MLB players in the 90s. Thank you so much for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it.